सर्विस में लगी है।
I begin my talk with a quote from Mr. Woodford, an American scholar and author of a book titled Jinnah of Pakistan. He says, and I quote, "Few individuals significantly alter the course of history. Fewer still modify the map of the world. Hardly anyone can be credited with creating a nation state. Muhammad Ali Jinnah did all the three." Hailed as great leader of Pakistan and its first donor general, Jinnah virtually conjured that country into statehood by the force of his indomitable will. As mentioned by Mr. Fatiyar Hakim, during my 40-year service with PTV News, I was transferred to Kolkata on a mandatory 2-year tenure posting. During my stay in Kolkata, I produced a documentary on Quaid-e-Azam, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and visited all the places where Father of the Nation had gone during his 2 visits to Balochistan in 1943 and 1946. The history of Jinnah Gap. Once Quaid-e-Azam was passing through Kandhari Bazar in Kolkata, that he came across a shop of caps. He selected a pair of caps and asked the shopkeeper about their price. After determining the price, Quaid-e-Azam offered to pay the price, but the shopkeeper was not prepared to accept the price from him. Quaid-e-Azam told the shopkeeper that if he will not accept the price, then he will not purchase the pair of caps. The shopkeeper was also adamant and said, whether or not you purchase the caps, I will not accept the price. So this was a problem, as none of the two was willing to accept the other's argument. Then some other persons accompanied the Quaid, mediated in the affair, and asked the Quaid-e-Azam to write a check for the price of the pair of caps and handed it over to the shopkeeper, saying that he should donate it to the Muslim League Fund. This is how the matter was resolved. Later, during the entire lifetime of Quaid-e-Azam, a pair of caps was used to be sent to Quaid-e-Azam every year. A check of the price of the pair of caps was to be received by the shopkeeper, and the same was used to be donated to the Muslim League Fund. Now, with regard to my interview with Mrs. Qazi Isa, during the production of the documentary on Quaid-e-Azam, I interviewed Mrs. Qazi Muhammad Isa, President of Balochistan Muslim League, the mother of the current Chief Justice of Pakistan. During the interview, I requested her to narrate some of the distinguishing features relating to the person of Quaid-e-Azam, as the people already know as to how good was the Quaid as a lawyer or as a politician. She informed me that Quaid-e-Azam used to wear twin color shoes, which was the fashion at that time. Likewise, she informed me as to what color of the tie was used by the Quaid with which color of the suiting. Besides, I also came to know that the Quaid used to shave with barber's razor. One can imagine the nature of the skin. It was a documentary. I requested Mrs. Isa to provide me some photographs in order to visualize my documentary. One of the photographs provided to me included a huge public meeting addressed by the Quaid at Municipal Committee Park in Kota, where people had climbed on the trees to have a glimpse of the Quaid. She told me that the people listened to the speech of the Quaid with pin-drop silence. I asked her that the literacy rate at that time was very reaching the garden. He was told that the owner of the garden had hosted the tea party in his honor, and hence he does not need the permission to enter the garden. But the Quaid-e-Azam insisted that the owner of the garden must be called in so that he could seek permission from him. Naturally, this was done, and the Quaid entered the garden after seeking permission from the owner. This represents his faith in supremacy of law and rules of business. Mrs. Jennifer Musa, the wife of the elder brother of Qazi Muhammad Isa, the father of the Chief Justice of Pakistan, was living in Pishi. I needed to interview her for my documentary, but I was told that she generally does not meet the people. The script writer of my documentary told me that he has good relations with her and that he will accompany me for the set interview. So, as soon as we entered her house, it looked to us as if we have entered a museum. The kerosene lamps of that time were simply electrified. The Qaid had stayed in her house only for one night. The tea table where the Qaid was served tea was placed in the which same position where the Qaid same position was at the time of the entry of Qaid. Likewise, the bed was placed at the same position where the Qaid rested and spent the night. This was done by a foreign lady just to honor the Qaid and the one who did not allow anyone to meet her. ये तो उस खातून का जिक्र है, ठीक है। हमने क्या किया? Now the contrast. I visited Governor General's office in Kota in connection with my documentary and inquired about the office and furniture which are used by the Qaid in his capacity as the Governor General. To my surprise, they knew nothing about it. I told them that I am preparing a documentary of Qaid-e-Azam and I shall mention it as to how a foreign lady preserved different articles of her house where Qaid-e-Azam had spent only a night and how the office of the Governor General was maintained by them so poorly. Later, they took me to a showroom where broken furniture of the Qaid's office was placed under tons of dust. Once Qaid-e-Azam was sitting in the courtroom in India and the British judge entered the courtroom. All the persons present in the courtroom stood up in respect of the judge, but Qaid remained seated. When the judge was seated in his chair, the Qaid stood up and paid respect to him. Most of the Hindu personnel present at that time seized this occasion and requested the British judge to penalize the Qaid as he did not pay respect to him on his entry to the courtroom. The British judge asked the Qaid about it. The Qaid replied that when he entered the courtroom, he was not wearing the traditional judicial robes, so how could he know that he is the judge? But when he sat on the chair of the judge, it was established that he is the judge, so he stood up and paid respect. In 1946 elections, Qaid was touring the whole country in India to campaign for the Muslim Leagues and Deals. When he reached a particular place, there was a hot issue which was a bone of contention between Muslims and Hindus about the marriage of a Muslim youth with a Hindu girl who had converted to Islam. On seeing the, मतलब यहाँ पे ये था कि वो हिंदू ये कहते थे कि जी हमारी लड़की जो है वो मुस्लिम ले गई, मतलब ये उनका एक ये था कि on seeing the Qaid, the Muslims were delighted that the most contentious issue would be resolved amicably. They asked the Qaid that campaigning for the Muslim candidates is fine, but first he should address their issue with the Hindus. The Qaid told them, look, I have come here for campaigning and not to resolve your issue. The Muslim said, okay, you are a lawyer and we hire your services, to which the Qaid could not refuse. But the Qaid said, my fee is 100,000 rupees, which of course was a big amount at that time. The Muslims said, no problem, this is a question of our honor. They contributed the money and handed over to the Qaid. The Qaid asked them what is the date of the case. They informed him accordingly. So after campaigning, the Qaid went back and returned on the date of the case. Since now the lawyer of the Muslim side was Qaid-e-Azam, the other party hired very reputable lawyers to fight their case, and that too as it was a question of their honor. When the proceedings of the case began, the other lawyers quoted from Islamic law that the girl was divorced on such and such date, and after conversion to Islam, she was married on such and such date, which meant that the iddah time, according to the Muslim law, was not over. यानी ये इद्दत का उस वक्त भी मसला था. After listening to the entire case proceedings and on the conclusion of the arguments by the other party, the Qaid stood up and said that you quoted the date of her conversion to Islam as well as the date of marriage, which was according to them was within the iddat period according to Muslim law. He said, but all the dates quoted by you are of English calendar. When you are talking of Islamic law and quoting the dates of divorce, marriage, and the iddat period, why don't you quote the Muslim calendar? If you refer to Islamic calendar, the iddat period was over. Hence, the case was decided in favor of Muslims who were overwhelmed by the decision of the court in their favor. The Qaid returned a sum of rupees 90,000 to them. The Muslims were not inclined to accept the money as they were very happy that the case was finally decided in their favor. The Qaid informed them that when he accepted the case, he was of the opinion that it will take at least 10 hearings. So I asked you to pay 100,000 rupees. But now the case was decided in only one hearing, so I am returning the balance amount.
कहाँ से लाएंगे?
Another good example of the discipline observed by the Qaid was that of the 23rd March 1940, when he was approaching the stage in Lahore, where the historic Pakistan Revolution was adopted. The Balochistan Boy Scouts were posted at the stage and were told that only the personalities with a delegate badge are to be allowed at the stage. क्योंकि वो ज़ाहिर नहीं जानते थे कि भाई किन लोगों ने आना है स्टेज पे, तो उनके लिए था कि डेलीगेट बैज जिसने लगाया होगा सिर्फ उनको स्टेज पे आपने आने दें. The Balochistan Boy Scouts were अच्छा. Quaid-e-Azam was not having the delegate badge on his chest. The scouts stopped him, saying that he is not allowed as he is not carrying the delegate badge. The organizer intervened, saying he is the main speaker, but Quaid-e-Azam stopped them and appreciated the gesture of the scouts for strict discipline. At the time of the creation of Pakistan, Punjab and Sindh assemblies were to pass a resolution in favor of joining Pakistan, while in Balochistan and the northwest frontier province KPK, where assemblies were not in place, the tribal jirgas were to declare to join Pakistan or otherwise. Before the jirga of Balochistan took place, a delegation of tribal leaders led by Mr. Muhammad Khan Jogizai met the Qaid and informed him that they will vote for joining Pakistan at the jirga. At the same time, they requested him that their tribal villages be maintained after joining Pakistan. The Qaid told them in point blank terms that whether or not they vote for Pakistan, he is not obliged to concede to their demands. यानी इन हालात में भी उन्होंने कंसीड नहीं किया कि भाई ठीक है मैं जो है अच्छा. Soon after independence, the U.S. ambassador came to meet the Quaid-e-Azam in Karachi to congratulate him. During the meeting, the U.S. ambassador put a proposal to the Qaid for financial aid on behalf of the U.S. government, which Qaid refused. Later, the people present in the meeting inquired from the Qaid as to why he refused the aid, which was not requested by them, but was offered by the U.S. and by himself. The Qaid gave a historical reply that now we have become independent nation and right from now we should learn to live independent. Ziyarat Residency. I visited Ziyarat Residency where the Qaid had spent his last days of life. I interviewed the comptroller of the Ziyarat Residency. He narrated the story how the Qaid was shifted from the first floor of the residency to the ground floor to take him to Quetta and onward to Karachi on his last journey. He said, the chief security officer of the residency was Major Scott, a British military officer, who was in charge of the overall security. The Qaid was to be brought down on stretcher as he was unable to move. He said the Qaid had given strict instructions that British officers should not see him in this miserable condition against whom he had fought for the whole life. So they were confronted with the dilemma as to how the British officer should be asked to leave the place. After hectic consultation, it was decided that when the kite would be brought down from first floor to the ground floor, the British officer should be asked to look after the outside security. So in this way, the kite was brought down. Later, the kite gave instructions that he should lay on the rear seat of the car with a pillow under his head so that he could wave to the people standing on two sides of the road and say goodbye to them. I thank you.
ये जो आपने हिस्ट्री के 2-3 नुक्ते डाल दिए आज सारों की हार्ट बीट चेक कर लें अभी ये कायद के उस मुल्क के आज के वासी हैं सिर्फ ये है कि 2024 आए हैं. So we'll have this session of your, what do you say, sentiments, your comments, your views, your questions, and only then we shift over to the next speaker. Ji sir, please.
Sir, wonderful, and I'd love to read the book as well. I just wanted to ask that, did you visit the Kalat as well? Because